Hi and welcome to Archives of Warcraft, the series where we look at features in dungeons that were around during vanilla that have been updated over the different expansions, but there's still features in them that were important during vanilla time but now don't do anything, but might attract some people's interest. This week we're going to look at the Quillboar instances, beginning with Razorfen Kraul. So, Razorfen Kraul, Razorfen being the area where... Shall we start off with a bit of lore? I don't usually do these as lore videos, but sometimes a little bit is necessary. This all begins with a demigod by the name of Agamagan, who fought against the Burning Legion in the War of the Ancients, died in the battle, and where he fell, presumably round about the Barrens, his blood seeped into the ground and threw up all these thorns, and the Quillboar was supposed to be his mortal progeny, and of course they worship him. The spirit of Agamagan is still in the instance, still is now, still was then, given the same sort of quests. And the area, especially where these thorns seem to be thickest, in the southern Barrens, became known as the Razorfen. And Kraul means... Actually, I don't know what Kraul does mean. What does it mean? If anyone knows, put that in the comments below. I have no idea. Now, another thing, if you know this, you can put it in the comments below. At the time of vanilla, I was an alliance player. Didn't play Horde at all. I actually played a few levels on an Orc Shaman, just the starting area, but I didn't actually level up. And as an alliance player, this was not a dungeon that was done very regularly. The quests for it were usually few and far between. There were a good number of quests in it, but you had to go all over the place picking up, and often in places where you tended not to quest that much. Where it was located in the southern Barrens. Now, for Horde, nice and reasonable, especially if you're Orc or Troll or just questing in those lands. But for Alliance, most people would be questing in the Eastern Kingdoms. Not all, but most. Which basically meant going to Menethil Harbour, which I know it's in the wetlands, but it's a lot wetter now than it used to be. Then you'd have to wait for the boat, get the boat to Theramore Island. So then you'd get the boat to Theramore Island. Then you'd run, because the level it was around about level 30ish, give or take a few levels. You had no mount, so you'd be running all of this. Running through Dustwallow Marsh. The mobs weren't necessarily horrendous, but they would be red quality. You wouldn't want to pick a fight with them. So running, sticking to the road, into the Barrens, and then running all the way down the Barrens. The Barrens being a zone now that is split into two zones. It was one zone then, but still a big zone. All the way down to the south. And for what? Because the quests that you'd pick up in sort of Kalimdor. I think there was one at Ratchet, and one or two maybe in Feralus. But what did attract Alliance players there was the level 30, I think it was, warrior quest. Now, different classes had various class quests as you leveled up. It's, now we have the one at level 20 and the one at level 50, it's still decent. There were ones in vanilla as well, and they were much more involved, of course. It wasn't just go to a dungeon and it's done. But one of the items you need for the fire-hardened mail was an item off one of the bosses in Razorfen Kraul. Good luck getting a group for that. And in fact, I didn't do this dungeon on my paladin vanilla, but I did do it on my warrior, who I then deleted at level 50. It took some time to get a group together, but there were sometimes other reasons for doing it as well. We finally got a group and went into there. But yes, it took a long old time, not only to persuade people to go, but to actually get there as well. For Horde, as I say, much more convenient. Now, in terms of differences, there are a lot of them are towards the end. The same basic bosses are there. There's like a couple of changes there. The way it looks now is very different. You can sort of see when you go in, you see lots of Quillboar have been killed. So you know something's up. And then the story of this is still the same as the story was then, in that the boss, Razorflank, at the end, is corrupting the Quillboar turning them from the path of Agamagan, and your job is, one of your jobs is to go in there and kill this Quillboar, so that Agamagan's children can turn back to him. But it's taken a distinctly, I suppose this was with Cataclysm, it's taken a distinctly old godsy feel with the extra elementals. I mean, there always were geomancers there, and the tentacles in the ground. I'll come to those tentacles in a moment. The first sort of clue that you might see something's a bit weird is what's going on here, is when you see a giant boar and a big bat. The blind hunter is feasting upon it. Now, the lone hunter was a boss in there in vanilla, but it was a rare spawn, which I never came across. But when I was looking this up, I did find out it was a rare spawn in the instance, but now it's there all the time, presumably because it's worth its time appearing every time, because it gets to snack on a big old pig. Now, this boar is not just a giant boar that it happens to be feasting on. It was known as Agathelos the Raging, and this was a boss at the time. If you go to the left, you'll notice when you come up to this lone hunter, before you kill it, the cave area to the left has a yellow portal over it. You can't pass through it. You have to kill him first and then it disappears. This was much the same at the time, only it wasn't killing the bat that removed the portal. There were a couple of Quillboar who were maintaining it, so you had to kill them. And you'd go through there, and there would be Agathelos the Raging, big old boar that would charge you. A couple of items off it, a bit rubbish. And that was another thing about the loot as well. I mean, now we're used to dungeon bosses just dropping blue quality loot. At the time, mostly it was green, actually. I think the last boss was guaranteed to drop blue loot. Maybe Agathelos himself. But a lot of it was, sometimes they would drop some blue loot, a lot of the times it'd be green quality. Didn't really matter then at the time, as I say. If you go there now, what you see basically is a spirit. It's just something, I think, for people who do remember the time, just to put something there, because other people, but you might wonder, why is this portal disappearing? And when I go there, why is it just like the ghost of a pig that doesn't even drop anything? That's the reason why. They've just put it in there rather than massively. I suppose they could have just rubbled over that little area to stop you accessing it. That would be another thing. But they've left it open with a little NPC there just to remind you. Now, towards the end, Razorflank, you'll notice, is in front of a little hut area. Razorflank used to be in the hut at the time. Now, why has moved down the stairs? The answer to that is, first of all, I actually don't know. But you'll notice you can't actually get into the hut now. It's closed off by briars. And another thing, when you killed Razorflank at the end, okay, it was the end boss, but it wasn't necessarily the last thing to do. What you would generally do is jump down at the side of this hut, which you can't do now. And if you look directly there in this screenshot, you can see another hut on the floor over there. There used to be a goblin there called Willix the Importer, who was someone who'd come in hearing about some sort of tubers, red tubers, that were worth a bit, and thought, oh, this would be a nice, easy book. Turned out not to be the case. And it's an escort quest, and what you used to do is, free him and say, okay, I'll escort you to this entrance. It was actually quite a nice escort quest, because there were a lot of escort quests in vanilla, and most of them were worse than watching grass grow, because they moved so slowly. It was untrue. This one moved at a reasonable pace. It was quite good. You just had to, sometimes a little bit too quickly, I think. But at least you weren't going to be hanging around. So you escort him to the entrance. Most of the mobs would be dead on the way there anyway, but there'd still be a few others to get. And then he'd reward you with a nice ring. Now, you can't actually get there anymore. Needless to say, he is no longer there. You can't get there anyway. If you go around and try and jump off the bridge, in theory, that would get you down there. But then this happens. The tentacles throw you back up there, having none of it. I'm not quite sure why they did that, I have to say. I can understand that when Cataclysm came in and the looking for dungeon that we have now came in, you could well imagine that as soon as you kill the end boss, people just leave the dungeon, so people wouldn't have done the escort quest. But, I don't know. Maybe they could have at least left some sign that he was there and at least let you get down to the ground area. But there you go. The quests that were in that area are no longer obtainable anyway. There's just the same basic quests you used to get in the instance anyway. So that's what I recall around Razorfen Kraul now, about features that don't really do anything anymore that did during vanilla. Next week we're going to have a look at Razorfen Downs, which is quite an important one for rogues really. So you'd certainly make the effort to go there even as Alliance. If you've enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. If you're a Horde player, don't forget to comment and say what you thought of it at the time, because I only have the Alliance perspective really. And don't forget to share it with other people that you think might be interested. Until next time, I'll see you later.